But
Well, let's start with the breaking news, because there's
yeah.
just been an FBI briefing about the Dallas ICE facility shooting. And what they revealed was the FBI confirmed that the Dallas incident is being investigated as an act of targeted violence against the federal facility and its personnel. The suspected gunman, Joshua Yah, left anti-ICE messages on munitions and in handwritten notes, revealing a deliberate intent to terrorize ICE agents. That was his target. The shooter researched federal facilities, ballistics, and media coverage of the recent Charlie Kirk shooting in the lead up to the attack, and that the attack occurred at the secure Sally Port facility. And that's really all they're saying, that, he died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So a lot of the stuff we knew, but I guess the fact that he was working alone is new, or officially new. The rest of the stuff we sort of knew, but he was targeting ICE agents, not the people who were being held by them, or supposed immigrants that were being held by them.
You believe that?
I mean, it's weird that he missed his shots. The guy was a good marksman, apparently. So
3 times.
He should have been able to hit his targets, but who knows? Who knows? I mean, this is what they're saying. I don't believe anything this FBI says right now, because everything is so conveniently packaged to match a narrative that it's hard for me to take anything at face value. And I don't think they're helping themselves by having Kash Patel out every morning revealing information that he shouldn't be revealing. They should just let the people who are handling the investigation do that. When Kash Patel is tweeting about it, it's probably a narrative building exercise.
It's probably a lie. That's what you're saying? It's probably. I like how you called it a narrative building exercise. It's probably total bullshit if Kash Patel has anything to do with it. Listen, I wasn't fortunate enough to catch the entire press conference that the FBI just held.
Yeah.
But if it's anything like, and I've seen a couple of clips, if it's anything like the performative Tyler Robinson, here's some texts from his boyfriend, his mom said he moved towards the left. I don't believe any of it. That's where I'm at. I don't believe anything that comes out of any of the mouths of any one of Trump's idiocracy cabinet. I don't believe the DOJ. I don't believe Pam Bondi. I don't believe Kash Patel. Fuck at all. I don't believe anybody associated with the Trump cabinet. I don't believe any statements from the FBI. I do not believe any statements from law enforcement involved in this, specifically in the United States of America, specifically in Dallas, Texas. And let me explain why. And it's going to be a real short answer, because they're all fucking liars. They're all pathological liars. What we're witnessing, and I wrote a piece about this. It's called Trump's Violent Culture War Blueprint. Trump's Violent Culture War Blueprint. Mm-hmm. Keep that in mind. It's a blueprint. It is the exact same play from the Charlie Kirk incident. It's the exact same ambiguous play from Butler. It is the exact same ambiguous play that we see every time there's any kind of violent uprising, any incel or any radicalized gamer, libertarian dude who never voted for anybody. This guy never voted for anybody. Joshua John never voted for anybody, was not part of any political party. His friends said, he's got nothing to do with it. Ken Klippenstein wrote an entire dissertation about this man. He talked to his friends. They're like, he never said anything about ICE. He didn't give a shit about ICE. He didn't give a shit about anybody. He was insane. He lost his mind over the past 2-3 years. His friends said he became so aggressive and out of pocket in Discord and on 4chan in Groyper groups that he was kicked out of some of them. So when we sit here and talk about what the FBI just said and how they're vaguely leaning into the idea that he was going after law enforcement, that's because they cannot find a way to attach a left-wing, lunatic, radical narrative groupthink to him either. That's why. And yes, I'll tell you what I'm saying in just a second. I want your question, but that's why JD Vance and all the proxies are out there reframing this. It's a very important distinction. Reframing this as an attack on law enforcement just trying to do their job. It just happens to be Donald Trump's Gestapo. It just happens to be nameless, faceless agents of the state who are kidnapping and disappearing people on behalf of the Trump regime, specifically migrants. And if you think for a fucking hot minute, that the ambiguity isn't the point, it is. And if you think for a second that they were able to find anything to connect this gentleman, Joshua John, to the left, to Antifa, they didn't, which is why they're reverting back to, oh, this is, he's going after law enforcement. Fucking show us. And not in like something you just put in a PDF or on a spreadsheet. Show us the fucking receipts. Show us, because all you're doing is showing us a bullet with anti-fascist on it or anti-ICE and telling us to believe you when you tell us that you, the most pathological fucking DOJ and law enforcement apparatus in the United States of America's history, led by a fucking alt-right podcaster who used to peddle this shit for millions of dollars a year, and a president who's been peddling this shit with the big lie and every other conspiracy he has, and an attorney general who's a fucking ambulance chasing blonde bimbo who's covering up the fucking Epstein files with all of these people at the same time. I don't believe it. I don't believe any of it, and neither should you.
Well, I won't now. That was so brilliantly stated. Look, the two things that jump out of me from what you just said is anything that happens on 4chan is an opportunity for a foreign group or foreign intelligence operation, or maybe even domestic operations, to radicalize people. We've seen it time and time again. It's gone back to the early incarnations of the alt-right movement. This is where they went and found their people. They found them in these chat rooms, they radicalized them, and they turned them into, over a while, into potential shooters. And now we're seeing it yet again. If this guy was on 4chan or 8chan or Discord, that's exactly where they go and get radicalized. But the other thing which I find so deceitful, which you point to, is the Groyper thing. You know, it's hard to imagine that there is a right-wing organization that is as opposed to the MAGA movement or elements of the MAGA movement, but it exists. As you know, as opposed to perhaps the left is, and that they're far more violent. In fact, they are violent and more radicalized and more aggressive and are more willing to do these things over and over again. But the violence is not coming from the left. The attack this morning by Donald Trump in front of Erdogan, saying that this was all because of liberal democratic rhetoric, is bullshit. There is no liberal rhetoric saying kill ICE people. There is no rhetoric out there saying, you know, we've got to go after Charlie Kirk. That doesn't exist on the left. It exists on the right, on the very, very extreme right. And that Groyper culture, there it exists. But they will not, in a press conference about this shooting, they will not mention the word Groyper. And they will not mention the fact that this guy was in Chan 4 and that he might be radicalized from the right, because that disrupts their narrative flow. That basically disrupts what they're trying to put out in public.
Yeah, and let me explain that blueprint to you, because you nailed it. It's, you find ideologically motivated extreme violence, or you co-opt it after you find it, or you sanction it. Those are the only two solutions here that lead us to where we're at. So this is what the Trump regime does. Someone gets shot. They go into the war room. They come up with a blueprint, on the blueprint, the spin from this blueprint, which is get there as fast as we can, lock everything down, create a narrative that leads directly back to the left. Kash Patel, former fucking alt-right podcaster, t-shirt salesman, puts out a picture. He alludes to the fact that this is politically motivated and we're going to root out the left. And then J.D. Vance jumps on and he does the same thing. Kristi Noem jumps on and she does the same thing. Cretins like Jack Posobiec, they jump in, they do the fucking same thing. But it is so intentionally ambiguous, because what they really, really need to do every single time ideologically motivated extremist violence happens, which, by the way, 9 out of 10 times it is incurred upon people by a right-wing man who's disenfranchised, who's radicalized on 4chan, Discord, Reddit, and who spends a fucking lot of time online. and he becomes so crazy with his own thoughts that he goes and does dumb shit like this. He develops hatred like this. And keep in mind, Donald Trump courted those guys through Nick
Mhm.
Fuentes. Donald Trump co-signed the existence and the reality of the Groypers and guys like Joshua John and Tyler Robinson. When he invited Nick Fuentes down to Mar-a-Lago with Kanye West to have a fucking anti-Semitic sit-down. So don't for a fucking second, if you're sitting there listening to Donald Trump tell you this is the liberal democratic lunatics and it's the alt left and it's the Antifa, if you for a fucking second believe anything that comes out of his mouth when it comes to the interpretation of the reality around any of these things, I need you to always go back to the blueprint, which is co-opt a fucking horrific killing, a horrific event, turn it into a rallying cry for a holy war by ambiguously putting out information strategically and then pointing the finger going, we got to do something about those people. My God, it is a fucking tale as old as dictator time. So
Absolutely, and
make
it's
sure,
certainly
yes.
it's a blueprint that's followed by other people. Someone's asking, is Russia involved? I don't know if Russia's involved in this particular incident, but we know that this is a Russian template. This is stuff that Putin has done repeatedly for these false flag operations, these operations that are actually created by his own operatives. So it's certainly that. But we also know that the white nationalist movements in its origins in the United States was funded out of Russia, and that I think the leader of one of those organizations actually lived in Russia for a while. So, that whole white nationalist bent that emerged out of the first Trump administration and into the first Trump administration was created by Russia, or at least amplified by Russia. There were operatives and the names escape me now, it's been that long, but where, this was their intent, was to create this. And then they used Chan 4 and Chan 8, Chan and 4Chan to basically radicalize people, turn them into amplifications of themselves by making them, hate certain aspects of even the MAGA movement, and that's why it's become so dangerous to our society. And it's absolutely something that's inspired and used in Russia all the time.
Yeah, it's how do you radicalize somebody? You get them online. Where are those actors online? They're from around the world. And listen, there is no more dangerous group of individuals than young gamers that are terminally online, that hate their families, hate their lot in life. These are incels. Like
Yeah.
Nick Fuentes will tell you that. Yeah, we're incels. Yeah, I play Fortnite 12 hours a day, and then I come on here and I talk about N-words and Jews and tell everybody how much I hate the world. It's a contrarian subculture, right?
Yeah.
Of people who are so disenfranchised and hate their lives so much that they literally curate a different reality. This is who he was according to his friends, and Ken Klippenstein's Substack. Everybody should go follow it and read it. Vaguely libertarian, contemptuous of all politicians. He was a 4chan addict. He was terminally online. He logged 6,000 hours on a game called Rust recently. 6,000 hours. That's fucking
Wow.
hard to do.
Yeah.
He withdrew from school, all of his friendships, and he developed an edgelord mentality, contrarian, everything sucks. I'm capable of doing anything. And his whole goal was to impress this group of other groypers online. And you can say the same thing. I don't know any details about Tyler Robinson, but if we are to
Very
believe
similar.
anything, it is the exact same fucking thing. It's the same tale. And then what's really fucking fascinating to me, and they call it irony poisoning, right? Where, and it's this new kind of concept that I don't understand. I had to look it up. Irony poisoning, a diet of contrarianism so complete it becomes someone's entire radical identity, where it's like someone says this, I do the opposite. Someone wants that, I do the opposite. And so who knows what that means when it comes to what Joshua John did.
Yeah.
But he represents, as does Tyler Robinson, as do 95% in the past 10 fucking years, Zev. I put a fucking post out on it.
Yeah, you
This
did.
is one of the most well-researched pieces I've ever done. 95% of mass killings and ideologically motivated extreme acts like shootings or beatings or insurrections, whatever, are committed by groypers and alt-right psychotic young men.
and people who play these games. I mean, everyone plays these video games, and I'm not going back to that argument, although you could actually make a better argument that video games are creating the political violence we're seeing out there more effectively than you can say that left-leaning liberal rhetoric is causing this liberal stuff. That would be a better argument to make. Yet the president of the United States is going out there and publicly criticizing and blaming Democrats for the shooting when this has nothing to do with Democrats.
Well, keep in mind, this is the same fucking guy that's like, oh, this is, Russia is Biden's war. This is Biden's economy. This is Biden's recession.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that guy cannot take accountability for anything. And he isn't an opportunist. I mean, he doesn't miss an opportunity to be able to abuse and use any misery or any nightmare in the United States and to blame the other guys for it. It's politic 101 if you're fucking being totally serious.
Yeah.
But traditionally in the United States, when misery like this is being visited upon people where people are being picked off or shot, like we're seeing today, where people are fucking afraid to go walk near an ICE facility, and you should, because you don't know if they're going to come grab you too. But the chilling effect that this has had on so many people is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And you know what? Part of me, as I say this is going to sound dark, part of me kind of goes, fuck, Trump's a machine. Like he just continually has this ability to take anything terrible and pin it on everybody else, but it is all coming from him.
It shows you that he is doing exactly what he's been told to do or knows he's doing, which is building an authoritarian system. Because this is really about getting rid of your critics. This is about getting rid of your political enemies. It's about anyone who disagrees with you is going to be now, part of this terror cell or part of these terror networks, which actually I'm going to move up story number 3, and we'll do this now at number 5 or 4. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche's office has directed prosecutors in 6 major U.S. attorneys' offices to draft criminal investigation plans against George Soros's Open Society foundations, with the Justice Department lawyers suggesting charges ranging from arson to material support for terrorism. The directive cites a conservative watchdog group claiming the foundation poured over $80 million into groups tied to terrorism or extremist violence, including a Palestinian human rights group that Israel designated as a terrorist front in 2022. All of this clearly fits into what the White House is doing, creating this false perception that there is some sort of lefty terror grouping out there that's terrorizing America, funded by this billionaire, George Soros. It's exactly the playbook from Hungary that was also inspired by Russia.
George Soros is sort of the new Bill Gates, right? George Soros is this painted enemy that Donald Trump and the right need to point another finger at a Jewish man who survived the fucking Nazi occupation of Hungary. A Jewish man who's done nothing but try to make the lives of people around him better, whose family are Holocaust survivors. A Jewish man. There's a reason for this. And the reason for them going after a guy like George Soros is he is QAnon's boogeyman. He is the alt-right's boogeyman, kind of like Bill Gates and vaccines were the alt-right's boogeyman during COVID, if you remember that. And the only thing that George Soros has ever supported are progressive causes. He's dispensed $11 billion. He's worth about $7.5 billion to progressive causes to help people, to bring awareness to injustice, to fund programs that governments wouldn't fund in countries that are very, very poor. George Soros is not the enemy, and he never was the enemy. But George Soros is this dude, he's this boogeyman that they can literally put at the top of what they're deeming to be Antifa and give it a face and give it a bank account, which is the entire reason that they're going after George Soros. Because if you know anything about Antifa, it doesn't fucking exist. There is no Antifa. It's a thought. It's an idea that a bunch of hippies sort of glommed onto because they hate capitalism, they hate entrepreneurs, and
we're all anti-fascist. Most Americans.
Everybody is, unless you're Donald Trump. Yeah. Antifa won 2 world wars, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
So just to give you some fucking heads up. So, I find that to be maybe the most incredible aspect of this rush to start a culture war slash holy war against the left is George Soros, the man, the face, the bank account, legitimizes everything as what Donald Trump and the Trump regime are trying to paint, which is Antifa as a terror organization.
When you take away George Soros out of the Democratic funders, that's a lot of money that you're losing in that Democratic world. So, this is not just a veiled attempt to hit at Democrats and one of their biggest funders. It's a direct assault on Democrats.
Mhm.
And, money is what drives politics these days and what drives politics around the world these days. And losing someone like Soros, or certainly putting someone like Soros on the defensive, is damaging to the Democrats. And we're entering an election year. And this is exactly the kind of time when this president needs to shore up his dismal favorability ratings. I mean, this guy's tanking on every measure in every poll. And he needs to get rid of his opponents in order to succeed.
And get
in
rid of
next
the
year's
people that are
elections.
funding his opponents, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how you do it. Now, in terms of the Jewish thing, there are Jews on both sides of this, rich billionaire Jews on both sides of this divide. And it's always stunning to me how they could be so opposed in their ideologies, but they are. And certainly a lot of the funders that are on the MAGA side are Jews that are associated with sort of Russian Jewry, which is sort of the more Chabad kind of Jewry. There are different kind of Jews, there's Jews who believe in various different things. American Jews tend to be a lot more liberal leaning. Russian Jews tend to be a lot more right-leaning. And that's why there's this, funding from both sides. And it comes from billionaires who are Jewish on both sides.
Mm. Yeah, that's you know what, you bring up a good point. Listen, you can, and if you don't understand what Zeb just said, he is a Jewish man. He's got family that lives in Israel. He was born in Israel, and he understands the different sects and denominations very much like the word Christianity, where you've got Catholics that identify as Christians, you've got Christian scientists that identify as Christians. There are 40,000 denominations of Christianity, 40,000. Evangelical Christianity just happens to be the most extreme version of that. These are the people that are waiting to be raptured, by the way, just so you know.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you can literally set your watch to, how to be able to discern, extremists that misrepresent the whole. And any Jewish person that is siding with Donald Trump would be one of those people. Any evangelical person that is siding with Donald Trump, any Muslim that is siding with Donald Trump, they would be the most extreme of those denominations or those faiths, to kind of further
absolutely.
your point. Yeah.
So the number 4 story, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has summoned every single U.S. general and admiral, all 800 of them from around the world, to an unprecedented emergency meeting at Quantico next week with zero explanation, even pulling commanders from conflict zones. Pentagon sources tell The Intercept, amongst other organizations, that they're speculating everything from mass firings to loyalty oaths to what one source half-jokingly called a coup d'etat amongst officers who might question Trump's policies. This is unprecedented for him to be pulling so many top-ranked soldiers from around the world to a personal face-to-face meeting in D.C. on Quantico.
All in one room.
All in one room. It is unheard of. This is the kind of stuff they could do virtually. This is the kind of stuff they could do in groups and without any agenda or even giving them an indication of what this is about. Lots of people are asking very serious questions about what's going on next week.
Yeah, you actually have had some leaks. If you remember last week, the Pentagon and through Pete Hegseth said that any reporter that reports anything that comes out of the Pentagon will have to sign an NDA, and if they report something the Pentagon didn't want them to report, they're going to pull their pass or have them charged with endangering the United States of America. That is a true fucking story. On the heels of that, we find out that Pete Hegseth has sent a in-meeting request for over 800 generals that are currently literally deployed around the world, some, as you point out, in conflict zones, including Gaza, including Israel, including, believe it or not, Ukraine and other hot spots around the world. And it is, you show up. That's all he's told them. Now, this presents a number of issues. One, if you're any one of the leaking generals that has talked off the record, their concerns are threefold. Number one, you're going to put us all in the fucking same place. Probably not a great fucking idea, moron. And keep in mind, this is the same guy that conducted a war on Signal.
Yeah.
Number two, so he's already an idiot. Number two, what happens? I mean, the authority vacuum that we're going to create by pulling all of us out of these hot spots is going to be a major fucking problem, right? It's going to be a major problem. And the other thing that they're saying, which I heard today, and I thought it was as scary as it was interesting, is that there's thinking that only one of three things is going to happen: A, loyalty pledge; B, mass firings of 800 generals. How do you corner the army and the military? Which we talked to Terrence Goggin, West Point
Exactly. Yeah.
professor, about last week. How do you do that? You fucking get rid of as many dissenters as humanly possible that currently work for the United States Armed Forces.
This is exactly right. You know, when, Professor Goggin the other day really alerted us to the difference between Hitler and Trump. He said Hitler had the backing of the military, and Trump does not have the backing of the military. And that is true up until now. Now, if you bring 800 generals into a room and fire them all, well, you might be able to appoint 800 people to those positions who are far more loyal to Trump and his mission. And suddenly that problem of not having the military on your side disappears.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not an unlikely possibility, I would say. Without any other information about what this is about, you know, they could have said it's a national security issue, then maybe we would have understood that to mean maybe it's Venezuela. They want to keep some of the things under wraps. But they're not saying that. They're just saying they want to see them all, which is making everyone very anxious. It's certainly 800 at one time suggests they want to do something on a bulk basis. And I don't know, you know, it would not surprise me that this administration, which is trying to consolidate its power, trying to create an authoritarian regime, the likes of which we have, you know, we've described before, we know the patterns, will do something like this. They need the military on their side.
Yep.
And so for them, changing the leadership in the military is not just a possibility, it's almost essential, because right now they don't have the military on their side.
No, to a man, you talk to anybody in the United States military that serves the Constitution, that serves the United States of America, they hate the man.
Mm.
They hate the man. You know, generally speaking, the armed forces and the men and women that serve in it do not like Donald Trump. They did not get involved in sacrificing their lives and their families for their country so that they could pledge an oath to a guy that wears more fucking bronzer than Roseanne. I mean, you know, a fascist, an asshole, you know, a pedophile, a felon who wants to attack allied countries that a lot of these soldiers are currently deployed with. You know, whether it's Canada, Greenland, doesn't matter who it is. So, you know, and the Ukraine thing, from a conversation I had recently, is really bothering military brass. So if you're asking me for the best two case scenarios or worst two case scenarios about why Pete Hegseth, the moron that runs the secretary of war that runs the Department of War, by the way, he's going to do one of two things. It's going to be a purge, loyalty oath, or purge, or he's going to tell everybody, we're going to war. Here's what it looks like. You can't say a fucking word. And if you do, you're fired. And what that war might be is anybody's guess.
But, you know, you wouldn't bring 800 people to a room to tell them you're going to war.
Correct.
You would tell the people who are going to war that they're going to war, and the rest you would tell them along the way if you needed to. Like, it seems to bring this many people from various theaters around the world, unless you're completely reorienting everything that the military is doing, which is possible. You know, the more compelling, likely scenario for me is that there will be some sort of purge, and that should send a shiver down everyone's spine and terrify everybody, because it means we are one step closer to a military dictatorship in America, and that is not an unthinkable thing, even though saying those words sounds ridiculous. I feel like, you know, how can I say that America is going to be a military dictatorship? But that
certainly
is the
looks
likely
like that
outcome
is
of
your
that.
best option. Yeah. And
it
as
feels
someone
like
just said, secrecy isn't born in a room with 800 people. I mean, you know, you're not going to get buy-in from 800 people. So, you know, if you're a betting person today, Trump not having control of the military, it would appear that next week, bringing in every major general from every corner of the world that is currently deployed to defend the United States of America, its allies, and democracy abroad, are about to get marginalized, or co-opted or presented with that opportunity. So,
Yeah.
and that is, and I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat right now that are very concerned, very,
Mhm.
very concerned, because as Terrence Goggin, who was just wonderful this week, Terrence Goggin, the West Point professor, told us it's the one thing that he doesn't have. That's the one ingredient he doesn't have to make America a dictatorship, a pure military dictatorship that Adolf Hitler did, that
Mhm.
Vladimir Putin does. So, yeah, I mean,
In
it's
fact, if you
terrifying. It's a
if you
great
look at
word.
the blueprint, this blueprint of what Nazi Germany was, and Goggin talked about this, about the Reichstag fire, was an excuse for Hitler to blame the communists
Mhm.
for the fire, because even though he was his people, we later found out they did the fire, but it was actually blamed on the communists. And soon after that, there was a deal with the military to consolidate the military and the militia together. And
Mhm.
that got rid of there was a night of the long knives where they got killed a lot of the military people that weren't really aligned with the Nazi philosophy. And so this could be, and in terms of progression, this is the Hitler playbook. We could be looking at a night of the long knives, only it's people getting fired versus people being killed. But nevertheless, it potentially is that kind of thing that they're heading into. Now, I'm not basing that on anything I can see or know, because nobody knows except maybe Hegseth and a few other people. But the indications are that that's some of what the military brass is thinking it could be. They're very anxious about this notion of a
Yeah.
potential coup, which means the firing of all these generals.
Yeah, I heard another, and it was interesting because I heard another rumor, and I don't know what to put into it, but the word coup is interesting. That there is a movement in the military to um, come out against what Donald Trump is doing to the United States of America and the using of the military. So maybe this is part of that. I don't know, but to your point, yeah, it's terrifying. I feel absolutely awful for the people of the United States of America, and if that man gets his hands on the military.
Yeah.
My God, I feel terrible for Canada, Greenland, Mexico, Venezuela, Panama, the world.
Yeah, and you know, it's just bad management. If you're going to do something like this and it's not as serious as what we suspect it is, you would at least signal that it's not so serious. But they're not doing that.
Let me give you a
Yeah.
real world scenario because
Mhm.
this happened to me, and I mean it's not war or a purge or a military takeover of a country. However, when I got fired from my morning radio
Mhm.
gig, I knew it was coming, and they said we want to meet with you at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, and I'm like, yeah,
That's
unless I'm coming in to do my morning
yeah.
show at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm not coming in. Tell me what it's about. Just come on in, Dean. Come on in. Tell me what it's about. Just come on in. So finally, I sent an email to all the parties involved. I said, it's not worth the fucking gas money. Here's my phone number. Just call me tomorrow. It's exactly what happened. The ambiguity is the point,
Yeah.
and putting the entire military, industrial complex and the management of the military industrial complex on notice like this with this kind of ambiguity, it's not healthy. It doesn't bode well for the United States of
Yeah.
America.
It also makes me nervous about the readiness for America and any potential conflicts around the world. Even though if we're going to be getting rid of all this institutional knowledge, and of course we don't know any of this yet, but if hypothetically they're getting rid of all this institutional knowledge and all these experienced soldiers, replacing them with less experienced guys, that's not good. That's not good. These guys are generals in the U.S. Army and the U.S. military. They got there because they're really good at what they do. They're world class, the best that you can get, and we're just going to let them go. I
Mhm.
mean,
Looks like it.
again, we don't know for sure, but we don't even know that it's a possibility.
Someone just called Pete Hegseth a DUI hire. I thought that was great in the chat, by the way.
That's very, very funny. Oh, that's very, very funny. I don't even know where we are in the countdown. This is
Like number
number
2, I think.
three, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's number three. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy was sentenced to 5 years in prison for conspiring to finance his 2007 campaign with money from Muammar Gaddafi's Libya. And unlike Trump's convictions, he's actually going to jail regardless of an appeal. The Paris court found evidence of a Faustian corruption pact where Libya sought economic deals and diplomatic recognition in exchange for campaign funds. though they couldn't prove the money actually reached his campaign coffers. Sarkozy, who once portrayed himself as a tough on crime politician, called the ruling a scandal, but said he'd sleep in prison with my head high and did promise to go into an appeal process. He said he'll fight this all the way to the end. The point behind this story is, there are still countries in the world where you can be a president and face consequences in front of their judges, in front of their courts, and actually go to jail, which is kind of like, wow,
Yeah.
in our world.
Refreshing, right?
Yeah.
I hear Bolsonaro is going to jail for the rest of his disgusting life down in Brazil. He tried to engineer a coup against Lula, the South Korean president, after he declared martial law, so people wouldn't rat him out for embezzling and taking bribes.
Yeah.
He got impeached. He's going to jail. I believe that there is another another South Korean president who also has served time. A female president served time. And then there's the United States of America.
Yeah.
A man who is a convicted felon 34 times over, an adjudicated rapist, a pedophile, an Epstein Files cover-upper, a career laundryman for Russian and foreign money.
Triads
A
too, by the
guy
way.
the triads, yeah, a guy who is enriching himself to the tune of $10 billion, a guy who is currently going after his political enemies with the full power of the state, a guy who engineered an attempted coup and insurrection that left dozens of people maimed, injured, or dead just over 4 years ago, is currently in the White House.
Mhm.
And it underscores stories like this of Sarkozy going to jail and being convicted, and them having the balls to actually convict the guy and send him to jail, or Brazil or South Korea. Stories like this really, to me, underscore how absolutely corrupt the United States of America is. It really underscores the fecklessness of the Supreme Court. It also underscores the absolute fucking shit job Merrick Garland did while he was the Attorney General for 4 years under Joe Biden. And to be fair, the Biden administration, I mean, they had a fucking golden opportunity to put him away. They had a golden opportunity to put that piece of shit in prison for the rest of his miserable, disgusting, pedophilic life. And they didn't. And they won't. Same thing happened when Richard Nixon got poked, right? Gerald Ford's like, oh no, we gotta just send him to California, and he's just gonna go there, and he's not gonna do anything. We're not gonna charge him. We're not gonna hold him. America is a fucking banana republic, and the news about Sarkozy makes me even sadder for the American people and what they've done. I can't fucking believe that they gave him his job back.
It all ties into story number 2 on the countdown. Federal prosecutors in Virginia are presenting their case against former FBI Director James Comey to a grand jury today, despite career prosecutors warning there's insufficient evidence, marking the first time in American history an FBI director faces criminal charges for congressional testimony. The case centers on Comey's 2020 Senate testimony about the FBI's Russia investigation, the same probe Trump fired him for conducting in 2017. It's unbelievable that this thing is still going ahead, although I haven't got a final confirmation that those charges were presented today. It appears that it's coming, despite the opposition of many other career prosecutors inside the DOJ, despite the attorneys that had to resign because they didn't want to pursue these charges. Jim Comey is a priority, apparently, for the Trump administration, where all these other illegal people and all these other criminal elements are not a priority, and that's stunning to me.
Yeah. Hey, listen. Here's a question for you.
Mm.
Do you think that after they present their case, they'll get laughed out of court, kind of like the New York Times $15 billion lawsuit got laughed out of court?
Because the grand jury is going to decide whether these charges are legitimate or not. They will know that there is a campaign by the president to get him charged. On the other hand, you look at the actual technicality of this charge, he might have perjured himself. He might not have perjured himself. Is it enough to prosecute him almost 5 years later? I don't know. Maybe he misremembered. Maybe he doesn't recall, whatever it is. The bottom line is that on the bigger picture, the reason he's getting charged is not because of this perjury or anything alleged perjury. The reason is that the president has his guns out for him and has been saying so publicly.
Yeah.
And that should be enough to ultimately kill it later on. But could they get it through the grand jury? Maybe. Maybe they could get it through the grand jury. But sure, when it gets in front of a court, his defense can be, well, the president's been gunning for me. Look at all the stuff I said about him in 2017. Look at all the stuff I exposed about him in 2017. They should be able to dismiss those charges. Ironically, Comey is not really in my opinion, a great looking figure in the whole 2016 operation. He was both supportive of Trump by being anti-Clinton, and also anti-Clinton by releasing all these Trump Russia things. He was sort of this really conflicted person when it came around to 2016. But there's no doubt that his involvement in the 2016 campaign resulted in Hillary Clinton not winning that election.
Yeah, I know love for James Comey, but this is just more ridiculousness. Like this indictment will not happen. He will not get charged. There is no way James Comey is going to get charged. He was front and center, and the dude took meticulous notes. And we're talking about the president of the United States. Yes, this president of the United States, who promised revenge, had a hit list, fucking put out a Truth Social post that was meant to be an email to fucking Pam Bondi saying, hey, when are you going to go after James Comey? We look bad. I look terrible. They impeached me 5 times. Like, they came after me 5 times. You got to go after him and shifty shift. Everything's there. I mean, if he wasn't so stupid, if he hadn't telegraphed this for the past several months, actually 4 or 5 years, and if he hadn't put out that tweet, which was supposed to be an email to Pam Bondi, or that True Social post, we might be having a different conversation. But there isn't a legal reality. Having said that, who knows, because it's the United States of America and the Supreme Court's fucked. I cannot see a legal reality where James Comey can't confidently walk in, or his lawyers can't confidently walk in, or any grand jury with anybody that's not a Trump sycophant will look at this and go, fuck off, or won't go, fuck off. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And everything is there. All the receipts are there for why Donald Trump is doing this. There's no merit to this. And you want to talk about fucking perjuring yourself on the stands? I watched Kash Patel for 2 days lie his tiny little cross-eyed dick off and perjure himself under oath. And now they're concerned about perjury from fucking 7 years ago, 4 days before the statute of limitations runs out. Give me a break, dude.
The other thing that we were just saying today, and that's well said, except I'm not sure about the cross-eyed dick, but there is
he's like 5'2".
Did you see the thing they had projected? I think it was in New York on the side of a building where these eyes going back and forth.
Like that?
It was really funny.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah,
per Kash. And also, did you see his notes that he scribbled himself during the hearing with the House?
Yeah, great fight with Swalwell.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! Anyway, all the stuff.
He was really focused on all the good stuff. That was a performance for the guy. That's what that was. Yeah.
But look at the Department of Justice today. In our reporting today, you got them. We're questioning their FBI press conference around the ICE thing in Dallas. We're talking about George Soros being a legitimate figure of investigation in terms of a terrorist investigation, terror network investigation. That also comes out of the DOJ. You've got Jim Comey, who is still an FBI director, former FBI director who's highly regarded, who is somehow being charged for perjuring himself 5 years ago on the president's orders. And if as we started out the show, can you believe anything the FBI and the Department of Justice says? No, you can't. This is, I wrote a piece about this on Narrative. This is the death of American justice. This is the end of American justice. We no longer can trust our law enforcement, and we no longer can really trust our courts. So where does that leave America as a democracy? Because that's one of the great tenets of American democracy is our justice system, justice for all. And it is, supposedly equal justice and blind justice for all. It's not the case anymore. It just isn't.
No, it's brazen. Like we can't sit here and argue the merits of whether or not we can't. Whether or not Donald Trump and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi might have something on James Carter. I mean, or James Comey. You can't. You can't even start going down the conversation road. It's just because you cannot trust any of these pathological rejects at all. And so, and we've seen the criminality. Like, I'm not telling tales out of school. I'm telling you the fucking truth. These guys are embezzling, self-enrichment, pedophilic con men, thieves that are representing the worst fucking people and organizations in the United States of America. And all they do is lie about it. I mean, fuck, I can't remember. Was it yesterday or the day before? It was the day before where Trump's giving the speech at the UN. He lied for 55 fucking minutes about
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Like, lied about everything. He put out a tweet, escalator gate, by the way. This is the president of the United States who thinks that James Comey perjured himself. He thinks that the deep state was operating the fucking escalator that stopped. And he's ordered a major investigation into the left-wing radical globalist lunatics who made some secret person stop the escalator, making him walk 15 more steps.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to trust anything? Like, fuck people.
You can't trust anything they say. I mean, the fact that he might not believe there was a Trump-Russia involvement is impossible. But let's say he's still in a mindset where he doesn't believe that. Although I can't just see a scenario where he doesn't know that. I mean, that might lead him to blame people and want him to blame everybody else but himself, because he's that vain and that egotistical and that narcissistic that he can say, I never do any wrong. It's got to be other people's fault. But the fact that this is where we are in the state of truth in America and justice is beyond sad, beyond eye-opening, but it's also a wake-up moment, an awakening for everybody. This is not. This is not
Well,
America.
I just think it's, listen, I know that a lot of people are scared, right?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. But that's the point. And, I side with everybody out there that's like, you just have to mock it at this point, because arguing anything he does on merit will just make you fucking crazy, because you can't argue him charging James Comey with perjuring himself based on any merit. You can't argue with him that Kash Patel is telling the truth about not having access to the fucking Epstein files, and in no way is he covering it up. And it's not a fucking, there is no network, and Jeffrey Epstein acted alone when Jeffrey Epstein didn't act alone, and Kash Patel perjured himself 5 minutes later saying it was a network you should have stopped. Like, you can't trust any of these people. You can't trust Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi was like, I got 10,000 videos and pictures of Epstein committing crimes in the Epstein list on my desk, and I'm going to go through it. A week later, she's like, there's no Epstein list. He killed himself. Time to move on. After telling Donald Trump he is in the Epstein files. And this is the hell that every American is in right now, is that old sort of, like I said yesterday, that backstop of like law enforcement, taking care of the American people. You can trust the FBI. You can trust the DOJ. That's fucking serious stuff. None of it's serious. They're all morons. They're all idiots. They're all not only just underqualified boobs, but they're also all completely tainted, and they're all fucking pathological liars with only loyalty to one man, not you, not the United States of America. James Comey, for whatever you want to say he is, served that country with distinction. John Brennan did the same fucking thing. His former chief of staff, Kelly, what's his name? General, he's a former
Mark
general.
Kelly, not Mark Kelly.
No. Anyway, folks, you can tell me. Served this country with distinction. All of these guys. Adam Schiff serves his country with distinction. Letitia James serves the Southern District of New York with distinction, and did prior to Donald Trump. All of a sudden, they've all committed fucking mortgage fraud, and James Comey is committed perjury 7 years ago.
John Kelly's the answer, by the way.
John Kelly, yeah, thank you very much. Folks, you have to mock this. You have to laugh at this. You can't even argue. There is no sentient conversation you're going to be able to have with any MAGA who says they're going after Comey, fuck him. Or you can argue that based on merit, because there is no merit.
Well, there is no merit, and it's something you can mock, but it's also something you have to reject and fight against in every way possible. I'm glad you mentioned Epstein. It's the number one story on the countdown today. Rep. Thomas Massie confirmed he has the magic 218 signatures to force a House vote on releasing all federal Jeffrey Epstein files, with Arizona's Adelita Grijalva, I'm not sure I'm saying her name right, expected to provide the decisive signature when she's sworn in next week. Unless Speaker Johnson uses a government shutdown, at least, to kill the whole procedure. Massey directly accuses GOP leadership and Trump administration officials of threatening 3 Republican women who signed on to the discharge petition, Mace, Green, and Boebert, with committees removals and other threats like a primary challenge, although no physical threats. Trump has now escalated calling the investigation irrelevant to labeling it a hoax and threatening to abandon supporters who pursue the files. But he's also having a shutdown. He's having a shutdown just as the vote would have taken place. That is very, very distressing, because if that's the reason he's shutting down the government, if that's the reason we really are getting to the point where this government can have an extended shutdown,
it is.
Then it's very troubling. Can you imagine what's in those files? Can you imagine what's really in there?
I think we know what's in those files.
It must be absolutely devastating.
Yeah, it is. It has to be. Listen, there are some things here at play that we've talked about today, and we always kind of seem to circle back, right, to the Epstein files.
Mm-hmm.
Is the ratcheting up of crazy, the co-opting of mass killings. All of that is to do 2 things: to distract you from the fact that Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna have 218 signatures on the discharge discharge petition. Thank you very much. And the other reason is because Donald Trump is going to lose in 2026. He's going to lose. He's going to lose because the Epstein files are coming out. He's going to lose because he's got a 33% approval rating. He's going to lose because the American economy is in the tank, even though they had a better than expected month. He is going to lose because he has alienated Americans. He's going to lose because he's attacking Americans with a secret police service. He's going to lose. He's going to lose. And the fact that Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna actually have the 218 signatures, this is go time. This is where, not just the kitchen sink, but the bathtub, the toilet, maybe the cutlery, some of the furniture, all gets thrown out the window to distract everybody else from what's really going on. And it is the Epstein files. Can you imagine how bad, as you asked me, can I? Yes, I can. Because Donald Trump is front and center in all of these Epstein files. There are pictures of Donald Trump, according to Michael Wolff, with a stain on his crotch, with his arm around 2 very young topless girls, maybe 3 very young topless girls. Numerous people associated with the Epstein files that have seen the Epstein files hold their nose and they just point over to Donald Trump, who has evolved on the Epstein files from, hey, I'm the only guy that can get those out, to they don't exist, to it's a hoax, to let's move on. They're coming. The Epstein files are coming. Whether the government shuts down early or not, and Donald Trump is engineering this so that because he really does think that, if I shut down the government, then those files are going to come out.
They're not going to come out. If he shuts down the government, there is no discharge petition. There will not be a vote on releasing those files. They will not come out. It's as simple as that.
And the shutdown's supposed to start on the 30th?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all it's all happening at exactly the same time. You've got a purge of the generals. You've got this aggression towards combating every single lefty organization in the world. There is something going on that you look at as a totality here, and it looks like they're under pressure to move very quickly. And certainly one of the deadlines that we're seeing is the Epstein files. So
what's the date for that generals meeting?
I think it's just early next week. I don't think it has
Tuesday, Wednesday.
I don't think it has a specific date, but they said early next week is what they said. So I'm not sure. I don't have the exact date.
I thought it was like Tuesday or Wednesday,
I think
which
so.
coincides
like
exactly with the 30th of September, which is supposed to be the shutdown of the government, which is really fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't have an oversight committee look into it if they shut down the government. So to your point, amassing power in a very short period of time, if indeed the goal is to purge all of those generals and take control of the army. And then you've got the Epstein files, which I believe are supposed to come out a day or 2 before the end of the shutdown.
Yeah, but they need the vote, and she's only getting sworn in next week, so it won't happen until she's sworn in.
28th or 29th, I believe she gets sworn in. Yeah.
So you can see how the choreography of all of this is aligning with their desire to do something big, and it feels like they're going to attempt to do a real takeover here.
It's like a soft coup within a coup.
Yeah, I think it's exactly right. So if this general thing turns out to be what we're saying it is, which we don't know, by the way, we don't have any proof of that. Just some people fear that's the case, and you don't get the Epstein files released. You can see how those 2 things would work in the Trump administration's favor.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, every time we get on a conversation or we start talking about, different aspects of the Trump regime, we kind of always circle back around. We've got 4 or 5 stories we talk to. But today it's funny listening to you having this conversation and then piecing together this puzzle as we try to do every single time we do a five stack. And that makes perfect sense. Is that each one of these really concerning issues that is going on in the United States right now, whether it's the 218 signatures on the discharge petition, whether it's the moving towards Ukraine, whether it's the 800 generals that are supposed to show up to Quantico for a secret meeting that nobody is expecting, nobody knows what is going on, whether it's Donald Trump literally taking it in the teeth when it comes to his approval rating. And it seems like this is a power move for the consolidation of ultimate power in the United States of America, for a lack of a better term. And he's got to, to your point, he's got to do it a lot faster than for some outstanding reasons that we don't know yet, but we kind of know, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the Epstein files, if they're as bad as one expect, I mean, I've been doing a lot of research on Epstein. The things that I suspect are in those files are pretty damaging, just in terms of the financial stuff. I mean, the abuse stuff, I think Americans have sort of factored in, even though it's weird to say that. But the financial theft of America's American dream is really what we're talking about here. These guys were involved in a 40-year assault on the American economy for the Russians, for other enemies of America. And the death of the American dream is really what's in those FBI files. I'm pretty sure of it. But will we find out? We don't know until it comes out. I do think that whoever's, advising these generals, I hope there's a movement out there that is figuring out ways for them to resist whatever changes are happening. And I hope they're prepared before they walk in there on Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever it is, with a common, defense if they need to, about why they won't stand down their positions if that's what it comes to. Because I think they should be at least prepared for that possibility. It could be there.
Yeah, well, and we don't know, but to your point, if that is, one of the intentions of what do they call him, Pete Nutsack, of Pete Nutsack's meeting with 800 generals and pulling them all
Yeah.
from the field for a private meeting, which makes the most sense. One can only hope that every single one of those men and women in uniform that swore an oath to protect the citizens of that country and the Constitution of the United States of America actually do that.
Yeah, yeah, and they could refuse to stand down. They could that would be a coup, but it would be a coup I'd get behind. The Trump. Sorry, that I don't know what I was going to lead to there, but that's the show. That's the Five Stack today. Thanks very much for being here today. DeanBlundell.substack.com is where you can find a lot of the great stories we've covered in today's countdown. What do you have to tell people about?
Well, listen, not a slow day. It's a busy day, but it's a busy day today because I really worked hard over the past 24 hours to kind of put together what that blueprint looks like for Trump co-opting ideologically motivated violence and extreme acts, mass murder, shootings like we've seen over the past little bit. It is a blueprint. And if you want to go read the blueprint for Trump's coming culture war and how he PRs the shit out of these things to his benefit, because he is going to claim a holy war. We're sitting here putting the pieces together right now. Would love for you to go and check that out today. We still have 50% off subscriptions until the end of the month. But more importantly, just join and share, subscribe and share. Share the content that you've seen here. Share the Five Stack. It's a co-production of narrative.org and, of course, deanblundell.substack.com. And I put out a little note for all my paid subscribers today, just for paid subscribers. We're moving in a different direction still. We're building a bigger boat, so please go and check that out if you already haven't. If you're a paid sub here.
What's going on? I want to know.
We'll talk about it.
Okay,
We'll talk
okay.
about it. We've talked about it.
Okay.
But yeah, just it was like a sort of a survey. We're going to be doing more things for people, and I wanted people's input into it, specifically people that are part of this beautiful community. And it was just a thank you note. It was I love you people. You're the highlight of my day every day. You've changed our lives, and the fact that we get to just be part of yours is incredible. So thank you. And don't forget to go to narrative.org. Your latest is absolutely incredible. Why don't you just give us a quick little Coles Note tour, please, before we go?
Yesterday, we spoke to Bill Black, William K. Black, who was the regulator on the SNL crisis. And it gets a little technical, but it's fascinating to me because what we're trying to prove out is this pattern that happened repeatedly in America from 1987 all the way to 2008. A pattern where, these vulture capitalists really have trapped America's economy, collapsed it on a number of occasions, then been there to basically take from the taxpayers as they've been bailed out time and time again with very few prosecutions. He was responsible for putting 1,000 bankers away from the SNL crisis. Fast forward to 2008, no one was put away on a much, much, much bigger scandal that involved as much as $40 trillion. Happens to be a very similar amount as we owe the world in our debt. And it's all foreign funded. It's quite something when you see all the pieces come together, and he's certainly backing up this idea that it's a pattern that repeats over and over again. In fact, it's one big financial scandal that runs 40 years.
Wow, dude, I can't wait. The Greatest Heist series is available there as well. But make sure you become a subscriber to Zev and Lev, all the Evs, by the way. As the resistance continues to grow, we can't do this without you. We wouldn't be here without you. So thank you. And thanks for joining us for the FiveStack today. We'll see you tomorrow at 3:00. Usually towards the end of the week, everybody's excited to jump on a live at 3:00 on a Friday and go out and enjoy yourselves. So anyway, we'll see you tomorrow at 3. Thanks, Zev. Great to see you.
Cheers.
Talk to you soon, guys.
Have a good one, Dean. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.